In Formula One's 70-year history, we have seen a number of exceptionally talented drivers burst onto the scene. Some displayed mere flashes of greatness, whereas others built long-lasting dynasties. But every generation always has a couple of drivers who rise above their peers. Alain Prost and Ayrton Senna, Sebastian Vettel and Lewis Hamilton, and for the next generation, we have two standout prospects in Max Verstappen and Charles Leclerc. At just 23 years of age, both guys have already shown all the hallmarks of seasoned veterans, and even found themselves tussling for position on a few occasions so far. Yet while they are fighting for wins, podiums and poles at the front of the grid, there's one driver in particular who remains handicapped in an underperforming Williams, and his name is George Russell. Now George for me is a bit of a curious case, in that while incredibly talented, he is still yet to show us what he can do during a full season in a top team. Then again, when he gets the call up to Mercedes is currently out of his control. The way I see it, these are the three main contenders to win world championships in the future. So let's analyze them all by breaking down their strengths and weaknesses, looking at the status of their current teams, and how it will affect their future. After becoming the youngest ever race winner in F1 history, Sky Sports pundit Martin Brundle named Verstappen as, quote, "our new beginning." The Spanish Grand Prix of 2016 would become the first of 10 career victories he has taken so far, with half of those coming in the last 2 seasons alone. The Dutchman laid the foundations of his phenomenal racecraft early on in his career. However, over the years, he has refined almost every aspect of his game to a point where in 2020, he had the highest podium finish conversion rate of 92% out of all the races he completed. During his Toro Rosso days, he worked hard on perfecting the art of tyre management, an aspect of his craft that I think is relatively underrated. It's what allowed him to win races such as the 2018 Austrian Grand Prix, while others were suffering with heavy blistering and mechanical issues. In what Christian Horner described as a very, very mature drive, Verstappen was able to keep his tyres in check by constantly asking for updates on their condition and taking the necessary measures to prevent further blistering. When it comes to wheel-to-wheel combat, he is one of the most exciting there is. He has this instinctive ability to know where to place his car and how much later he can hit the brakes compared to his rivals. On numerous occasions, he made passes on parts of the track that seemed almost inconceivable, such as the overtake on Nico Rosberg when going through Chapel in 2016, or the last lap lunge on Charles Leclerc at the Austrian Grand Prix in 2019, or how about his fearless move around the outside of Felipe Nasr when going through Blanchimont in 2015. Speaking of fearlessness, this is one of his best qualities as a driver, according to you guys in a poll that I put out, with a few comments drawing parallels to a young Sebastian Vettel in the early 2010s. Verstappen is rarely, in fact, almost never, faced by anything or anyone. He has supreme confidence and belief in himself, which has been a help and a hindrance. On the one hand, it has helped him seize opportunities to win races, but it has also affected his ability to hold himself accountable for a mistake. Cast your mind back to the start of the 2018 season and recall how many incidents Max was involved in. China was the only race where he took full responsibility for the missed opportunity. However, after being called out by Lewis Hamilton in Bahrain, he said, quote, "It's quite simple and easy to blame the young driver." He failed to accept that he was in the wrong for the incident in Baku, and on top of that, Red Bull also sided with Max according to Daniel Ricciardo, as he said it played a part in his decision to move to Renault. This, along with what some call arrogance, have been the biggest weak spots so far in his career. Now, he has dialed back his approach since the lows of 2018, but as evidenced from last year's Turkish Grand Prix, he's not quite yet the finished product. As for Red Bull, they have consistently fallen short of Mercedes in the turbo hybrid era. Some years they have been closer than others, but they haven't posed a strong title challenge since 2013. With the engine freeze vote yet to take place, their future as to which engine manufacturer will power them post-2021 is uncertain. Oh, wait. Never mind. Now, before we go any further, I'd like to take a moment to ask you guys watching to consider subscribing to the channel and turning on bell notifications so you don't miss out on any new content once the season restarts. But now we've got that out of the way, let's move on to Charles Leclerc. In a piece written by Ross Brawn after the Portuguese Grand Prix, he said that the Monegasque reminded him of the sport's two most successful drivers, Schumacher and Hamilton. In what was an incredibly challenging campaign for the Scuderia, Leclerc was able to motivate the team through his Herculean performances in both qualifying and the races. To quote Brawn himself, "A driver can go two ways when faced with a difficult car. It can demotivate them and their performances start to drop away, or a driver can do what Charles has done and dig even deeper and find extra performance that helps subsidize the team when things aren't so great." Given Formula One's managing director has worked with both world champions before, such praise should not be taken lightly. Leclerc is very good at using negative situations or circumstances as fuel to drive his performances. 3 days before the Formula 2 weekend in Baku in 2017, his father sadly passed away. Despite this, Charles went on to take pole by over half a second and won the feature race in honor of him. The loss of his close friend Antoine Hubert in 2019 was also incredibly tough. However, once again, he didn't crumble in the face of adversity and dedicated his first Grand Prix victory to the late Frenchman. Before tragedy struck in Suzuka, Jules Bianchi recommended Leclerc to Jean Todt's son, which elevated his career to a completely new level. As his godfather was on course to win a world championship with Ferrari, Leclerc is determined to, quote, "win the titles that he deserved to win." When it comes to mental fortitude and resilience, there is hardly anyone who compares to Leclerc. In a championship fight, being able to bounce back from a setback will arguably be his greatest asset. As for the tangibles, his one-lap pace is lethal. Charles is one of those guys who can take a car to the edge of its limits on any given day. He lacked some consistency in 2019, but when he was on it, he was pretty much untouchable. As the season progressed, he got much better at bringing the best out of himself in Q3 when it mattered most. For example, his stunning pole position under the lights in Singapore. In 2020, he had a number of jaw-dropping qualifying laps, with the most impressive being Portimao. His race performance that weekend was just as impressive, as he secured his 5th top 4 finish of the season. Usually, the SF1000 wouldn't have the pace to put up a fight against the other midfield contenders on a Sunday, but on the days that it did, Leclerc was best of the rest more often than not. He did make a few notable errors throughout last season, however, those came more as a result of being overambitious and misjudging certain situations. Charles is his own harshest critic and is willing to learn from his mistakes, which in turn speeds up his growth as a driver. You could argue that his defensive skills are a potential weak spot when you look at races like Austria and Monza from 2019. However, especially in the case of the latter, his steadiness under intense pressure shone through more so than the questionable defensive tactics. A driver of Leclerc's caliber most definitely has the capability to win multiple world championships. However, his own team may be his biggest letdown. Ferrari have become infamous for putting ridiculous amounts of pressure on its drivers and allowing politics to interfere with their operation. They are still far from being the efficient, title-winning juggernaut that has been Mercedes for the last 8 years, but if Leclerc can help pull everybody together and lead the team in the right direction, they will definitely find success in the future. After all, they are F1's most powerful team, and I doubt they will be in this slump for very long. Finally, we have Britain's George Russell. I've already done a more in-depth analysis on his strengths and weaknesses in another video, which I highly recommend you check out after this one. I'm not going to go into too much depth here, but in summary, George's abilities are being masked by the lack of pace of the Williams. He was often able to over-deliver on a Saturday by extracting the car's maximum potential on a consistent basis. But on a Sunday, he wasn't able to have as big an impact. His stand-in drive at the Sakhir Grand Prix was mightily impressive, and he showcased how much potential he has when put in a competitive car. Of course, we can't draw major conclusions from this one weekend alone. However, it did give us a glimpse into what kind of future he has. For example, he he was able to stay calm under pressure when he needed to fight back for the win, and up until the colossal F-up as put by Toto Wolff, he controlled the race to perfection. Russell hasn't yet experienced a full season in one of the top teams. In fact, not even a midfield team. Therefore, once he does make the step up to Mercedes, we'll get a clearer picture as to how he compares to them. The Brit also emulated Leclerc's incredible feats of winning both GP3 and Formula 2 in his rookie seasons. So based on this, he is on the right path to achieving similar levels of success. But I'm sure the question pondering over everyone's minds is when he will get to drive for the Arrows. Well, it depends on whether Lewis will be around in 2022, which I predict he will, given Toto's comments immediately after they announced him for 2021. If this turns out to be the case, then they could either play it safe and stick with Valtteri Bottas for another season, or they could promote George to partner the 7-time world champion for him to gain valuable knowledge and experience on how to perform at the highest level. And if Lewis decides he wants to retire, then it's pretty much a given that Russell will be the heir to the throne. Although Mercedes won't be as dominant in 2022 and beyond, they will likely remain a force to be reckoned with at the front of the grid. Who do you think will be F1's next generational superstar? Is it Verstappen, Leclerc, Russell, or someone else? Be sure to leave your thoughts in the comment section below. Please like, share, and subscribe to the channel if you're new to enjoy my latest videos in the future. And as always, I'll see you in the next one.